Leo had never imagined his day would turn out like this. It had started like any other routine flight across the stars, carrying out the usual patrol mission. But everything had gone wrong in an instant. The engine of his small ship failed. A warning light flashed, followed by a deafening roar as the control systems shut down. Leo had no time to think. He grabbed the controls, trying desperately to regain control of the ship. But it was too late. With a violent jolt, the ship crashed, and everything went black. When Leo regained consciousness, he was in the wreckage. His head throbbed, and his body ached. He could taste blood in his mouth, but at least he was still alive. The small ship had crashed in what looked like a dense, unfamiliar forest, the trees towering over him like ancient giants. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground. Leo pulled himself up from the wreckage, his heart racing. His first thought was survival. He needed to check the ship's systems, make sure there was a way to contact his people. And then he could figure out what to do next. But when he stumbled out of the wreckage, he quickly realized he wasn't alone. Figures moved through the trees. At first he thought they were animals, but as they came into focus, Leo saw they were far from any kind of creature he'd encountered before. They were tall, muscular beings with dark, sleek skin and sharp eyes that gleamed with intelligence. Their clothing was made of what looked like leather, decorated with intricate patterns, and they were staring at him. Not with curiosity, but with purpose. Leo took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. The people know. The aliens moved closer, their movements silent but confident. He knew he needed to think fast. These weren't friendly explorers, they were warriors, and from the way they looked at him, he was not welcome. "What do you want?" Leo shouted, his voice shaking, but he was doing his best to stay calm. One of them, a woman with long silver hair and striking blue eyes, stepped forward. She raised a hand, signaling the others to stop. Her gaze locked onto Leo's, and in that moment, he felt like she could see right through him. "We do not need your words," the woman said, her voice strong and commanding. "You are a trespasser. You are in our territory now." Leo didn't know how to respond. His mind was racing. He wasn't in a place where he could reason with these people. He didn't even know where he was. All he knew was that he had to survive. "I don't mean any harm," Leo said, trying to explain. "I'm just a pilot. My ship crashed. I need help." The woman's eyes narrowed as she studied him. She seemed to be considering his words, but then her expression hardened. "Your words mean nothing. You are on our land, and you will answer. To our queen." Leo took a step back. The mention of a queen made his stomach tighten. The queen was the ruler of this place, and if they were taking him to her, he had no idea what awaited him. He wasn't sure if he should resist or go along with it. But the way they were acting so sure of themselves made him realize there was no choice. If he fought, he would lose. Two of the warriors moved forward, their strong hands grabbing Leo's arms and pulling him along. The alien woman followed, walking gracefully beside him, her eyes never leaving him. She spoke over her shoulder as they walked. "You are lucky our queen has decided to spare you. Many would not have been so fortunate. You are a prisoner now. Do not try to escape. Would only lead to your death." Leo stayed silent, his mind racing. He couldn't fight back. There were too many of them. So he followed, hoping that by staying quiet, he would learn more about where he was. And maybe, just maybe, figure out a way to survive. The group led him through the dense forest. And as they moved deeper, Leo noticed that the trees seemed to grow even taller, their trunks wide and thick, twisting upward into the sky. The ground beneath his feet was soft, covered with moss. Whoa. But it was clear that this planet wasn't like Earth. The air smelled different. The sounds of creatures he couldn't see filled the atmosphere. There was a feeling of power all around him. Soon, they reached a large stone structure. It was like nothing Leo had ever seen before in Shant, but perfectly crafted. There were carvings on the stone, strange symbols that seemed to glow faintly. The warriors led him inside, and the walls were lined with more of the symbols. Everything here was so alien, so foreign to him. Leo knew that he had no choice but to keep moving forward. If he was ever going to escape this place, he needed to learn everything about it. The woman stopped at the entrance of a grand hall, her eyes fixed on Leo. "This is where you will meet our queen," she said. "She is powerful, and you will respect her." Leo nodded, his nerves on edge. The queen. He had no idea who she was, or what kind of ruler she was. But the way the warrior spoke about her, it was clear that she was someone to fear. He had to tread carefully. They stepped into the hall, and Leo's eyes widened. The room was massive, filled with tall columns and strange statues. At the far end of the hall sat a throne made of dark stone, and on it sat the queen herself. She was unlike anything Leo had ever seen. Tall and regal, with long dark hair that flowed like a river down her back, she looked at Leo with piercing eyes. There was an air of authority about her, and Leo could feel her power the moment he entered the room. The warriors knelt before her, and Leo instinctively did the same. The queen's gaze never left him. She studied him with intensity, as though weighing his very soul. "I am Mystara, queen of the warriors," she said, her voice smooth but strong. "You are the first human to enter our domain, and you will explain why you are here." Leo swallowed hard. This was it. It's the moment of truth, the moment he hoped would never come. "I didn't mean to crash here," Leo said, his voice steady. "I just need to leave. I'm not here to cause trouble." Mystara's lips curled into a small smile. "You are a trespasser. All trespassers must answer to me." Leo had never imagined that his crash landing would lead him into the heart of an alien world. After days of wandering through dangerous landscapes, fighting off wild creatures, and searching for shelter, he had come to a strange city. He never expected to be caught by the planet's inhabitants. But that's exactly what happened. The aliens who captured him were tall and imposing, their bodies covered in dark, smooth armor. Their eyes glowed with an unsettling intensity, and they carried themselves with an air of superiority. They were warriors, a race built for battle, and they clearly viewed Leo as weak and insignificant. Despite his resistance, he was easily overpowered and taken to the heart of their kingdom, the palace of their queen. Mystara, the queen of the planet, sat upon a golden throne that was shaped like the skull of an ancient beast. She was unlike anything Leo had ever seen. Her presence was overwhelming, strong, confident, and beautiful. With her silver hair flowing like a waterfall and her eyes reflecting the harsh light of her world, she wore a dark, intricate outfit that seemed both ceremonial and practical. Signifying her power, the air in the room seemed to shift as soon as Leo stepped inside. Mystara studied Leo with great interest. She was not like the warriors who had captured him. Her eyes softened slightly, and she raised an eyebrow in curiosity. The warriors around her were eager to know why she was looking at the human in such a way. They expected the queen to dismiss him, as she had done with other intruders, but instead, she leaned forward in her throne. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice calm but commanding. "He is human, my queen," one of the warriors answered. "We found him after his ship crashed." Mystara's eyes narrowed. She had heard of humans, but this was her first encounter with one. She wasn't sure what to make of him. Unlike the other invaders who had come to their world, this human did not seem to be a threat. He was smaller and weaker, but there was something about him, a resilience that intrigued her. Leo stood there, hands bound and trying to keep his composure. He could feel the weight of her gaze on him, making him uneasy. He had no idea who this queen was or why he was standing in front of her. All he knew was that he needed to figure out how to escape and get back to his ship. The queen stood up, walking slowly towards him. Her steps were deliberate, each one echoing in the large hall. She circled around Leo, inspecting him closely. He could feel the heat of her gaze on his skin as she studied every inch of him. "Tell me, human Mystara," began, her voice softer now. "How did you survive the crash alone? I have never met a species that can endure such trials." Leo, trying to act tough, despite his fear, looked her in the eye. "I'm a survivor, and you should let me go. You won't get anything from keeping me here." Mystara smiled faintly, a mixture of amusement and curiosity in her expression. "Oh, but you are wrong, human. I think I will gain quite a lot from keeping you here. Leo's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? I mean that you are far from weak, she said. You survived, didn't you? You didn't die in the crash like your shipmates? There's something about you, something that makes me want to see. More. Leo's mind raced. He had no idea what the Queen was playing at, but he had to find a way out. Still, a part of him couldn't deny that he was drawn to her strength and mystery. Her beauty was striking, but it was her power that caught his attention. Mystara stepped back, raising her hand. Take him to the holding chambers, she ordered. He will stay there for now. I want to know more about him. As the warriors dragged Leo away, he couldn't help but glance back at the Queen. Her eyes followed him, and for the first time, he felt the weight of her attention in a way he didn't understand. The holding chambers were not what he had expected. The room was large, made of stone and metal, with a bed that looked more like a slab of rock than anything comfortable. There were no windows, no way to know what time it was. The air was thick with the smell of incense, and the walls were adorned with strange markings. Leo was locked in the room and left alone. For hours, he sat on the stone bed, trying to figure out his next move. He thought about the ship, about his crew, and about the dangerous planet he was trapped on. But what troubled him the most was the Queen's interest in him. Why had she spared him? What did she see in him that made her want to keep him around? He didn't know, but he couldn't shake the feeling that things were going to get a lot more complicated. That night, Mystara visited him. Her presence filled the room as she entered without any guards. She seemed completely at ease, as if the planet's dangerous environment meant nothing to her. I have been thinking about you, she said, her voice soft. You are different from the others. Leo frowned. What do you mean? You are strong, she replied, but not in the way of my warriors. You do not fight with violence. You fight with your will to survive. I admire that. Leo didn't know how to respond. He was still trying to figure out if he should be afraid of her, or if he could use her interest in him to his advantage. Why am I here? He asked. Mystara smiled, the corners of her lips curling upward. You are my trophy now, human. And I think you'll find that you're more valuable than you think. Leo spent the next few days in the holding chambers, trying to gather his thoughts. His mind raced with questions about why he was still alive, and why the Queen was so interested in him. The warriors on this planet seemed like a proud and powerful species, but they also felt strange. They were proud of their strength and honor, yet they were cruel to him, treating him like an outsider. Leo had to learn more about this world if he was going to survive, or if he was ever going to escape. The next morning, he was led to a large training area. It was a place where the warriors trained for combat. The sounds of metal clashing against metal filled the air. Leo could see groups of warriors sparring with each other, testing their strength and skill. They were tall, muscular, and fast. They fought with a kind of grace that made Leo realize just how out of place he was. Mystara, the Queen, appeared on a raised platform at the center of the arena. Her gaze was sharp and commanding. She spoke to the warriors, her voice echoing through the vast space. Prepare for the next challenge, she ordered. Bring the human. Leo felt his stomach twist with unease. He was no warrior. He wasn't built like these aliens. But there was no choice. The guards grabbed his arms and dragged him into the arena, pushing him to the center. The warriors stopped what they were doing and turned their attention to him. They seemed both curious and eager to see how the human would fare. Mystara descended from the platform and walked toward Leo. She looked him up and down, a faint smile on her lips. Today you will learn what it means to survive on my planet. Leo swallowed hard. He didn't know if this was a test, or if it was just another way for Mystara to prove her power. Either way, he couldn't back down. What do I have to do? Asked, trying to keep his voice steady. You will face one of my warriors in combat, she replied. It will be a simple test of strength. Defeat him, and you earn respect. Fail, and you become nothing more than a weak human. Leo's heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't a fighter. He was a pilot. He could fly a ship and fix machines, but none of that mattered here. This planet respected strength, and Leo had none of it. The warrior who stepped forward was massive. Nearly twice Leo's size, he had broad shoulders, thick arms, and a cruel smile that sent a chill down Leo's spine. His name was Torak, one of Mystara's most trusted fighters. Leo stood tall, trying to steady his breathing. He had no weapon, no training, and no hope of winning. But he had something else: his mind. He wasn't going to fight this warrior head-on. He needed to outsmart him. The battle began. Torak lunged forward with incredible speed, swinging his fist toward Leo's face. Leo barely dodged, feeling the air rush past him. He didn't have the strength to block the blow, but he could use his agility to avoid it. As Torak swung again, Leo rolled to the side and scrambled to his feet. He needed to find an opening, something he could use to his advantage. Leo's mind raced as he kept his eyes locked on the giant warrior. Mystara watched from the sidelines, her gaze fixed on Leo. She seemed pleased with his quick reflexes, but wasn't convinced he could win. The other warriors cheered as the battle raged on. They were enjoying watching the human struggle, but no one expected Leo to last long. Torak was relentless. He attacked with full force, his fists landing like thunder. Leo could feel the ground shake under each strike. He ducked and dodged, narrowly avoiding every blow. But Leo knew he couldn't keep this up forever. His energy was running low, and his body was growing tired. Then, just as Torak came in for another strike, Leo saw his chance. He noticed that the warrior's foot was slightly off balance. Leo used his agility to duck under Torak's swing, then swiftly kicked his leg out. From under him, Torak crashed to the ground with a loud thud, his massive body slamming against the dirt. For a moment there was silence. Leo stood over him, panting heavily. His heart was racing, but he had done it. He had managed to knock down the giant warrior. Torak lay stunned on the ground, unable to move. The crowd of warriors gasped. They hadn't expected the human to do this. Mystara's eyes widened, a look of surprise crossing her face. She had been watching closely, and for the first time, she saw something she hadn't anticipated. The human was not weak. He was clever, and that, in her eyes, made him more dangerous than any warrior. Leo backed away slowly, his chest heaving. As he tried to catch his breath, he hadn't won the fight, but he had managed to surprise Torak and the entire arena. He had proven that he was more than just a trophy to be paraded around. Mystara approached him, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You are different from the others," she said softly. "You may not have the strength of a warrior, but you have something they do not. You have a mind that can outsmart even the strongest among us." Leo looked up at her, his breathing slowing. "I don't want to fight your people. I just want to get off this planet and go home." Mystara's smile faded, but her gaze softened. "You will not leave yet, human. You have shown me something. You have proven yourself worthy. And I think you may find that you are more important here than you realize." Leo was confused. "What do you mean?" "You will be my guest," she said. "And I will see to it that you'll learn what it means to survive in my world. In time, you will see that you have a place here, whether you want it or not." Leo had never expected to feel at home in a place like this, yet every day spent on the warrior planet felt stranger. He had hoped the Queen's interest in him would fade, but instead, it deepened. Mystara watched him closely, observing every move he made, every choice he took. With each passing day, her fascination with him grew stronger. It wasn't just the fact that Leo had survived the battle with Torak. It was more than that. Mystara was intrigued by his mind. She saw him as more than just a human, a strange, weak creature from another world. She saw him as something new, someone who didn't play by the usual rules of strength. And that made him valuable in her eyes. Leo could feel her eyes on him wherever he went. Even when he wasn't aware, he could sense her presence, as if she was always watching, always studying him. The warriors treated him differently now, no longer dismissing him as weak, but with a kind of cautious respect. They still viewed him as an outsider. But there was an undeniable change in the air. One afternoon, Leo was called to the Queen's palace once more. This time, he wasn't thrown into a combat arena or forced into a challenge. Instead, he was led to a small room with intricate stone carvings on the walls and a large table covered in maps and strange alien documents. Mystara was waiting for him there, sitting at the head of the table, a look of deep thought on her face. Leo hesitated at the door but stepped inside when she motioned for him too. The air in the room felt heavy, and he wondered what she had planned. For him this time? "Come, sit," Mystara said softly. "Need to talk." Leo approached the table and took a seat across from her. He couldn't help but wonder what had changed. Mystara hadn't been this calm with him before. She was always testing him, pushing him, trying to prove something both to him and to herself. "Why did you bring me here?" Leo asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mystara leaned forward, her piercing gaze fixed on him. "I have been thinking about you," she said, her voice low but firm. "You have proven that you are no ordinary human. You fight differently, think differently. It is rare to see someone who does not rely on brute strength alone." Leo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He didn't like the way she looked at him, as if she saw him as some sort of prize to be studied, to be admired.
Oh.
It made him uneasy. "I'm not here to play games, Mystara," he said, trying to remain calm. "I don't belong on this planet. I want to get back to my ship, and I want to leave." Mystara's eyes softened for a moment, but her expression quickly turned serious again. "I know you want to leave, Leo, but you have to understand something. This planet is more than just a place of war. It is a place of power, and it is a place where your strength will be tested just as mine has been. If you leave now, you will miss an opportunity to change everything." Leo was confused. "Change everything? What are you talking about?" Mystara paused before speaking, as though carefully choosing her words. "I see potential in you. You are not like the other warriors here, but I believe you could be something more. You could be a leader, a powerful figure who challenges the status quo." Leo stared at her, trying to understand what she was saying. "I'm no leader. Just a pilot, Mystara. I'm not a warrior. I don't want to fight your battles." Mystara's gaze grew even more intense, and she leaned forward. "But you have the strength to change things. You have the ability to challenge the way things have always been done here. That is why I'm giving you an opportunity." "What opportunity?" Leo asked, his voice growing tense. "I want you to become part of my court," Mystara said, her voice quiet but full of purpose. "Not as a trophy, but as someone who can help me bring new ideas to this world. The warriors here are set in their ways. They value strength above all else. But there are other kinds of strengths. Strength in mind, in strategy, in leadership. You can show them that." Leo was stunned. This was not what he had expected. He had thought that the queen only wanted him as some kind of prize, something to boast about in front of her people. But now it seemed that she was offering him more, offering him a chance to change the entire way of life on this warrior planet. "I don't know if I can do what you're asking," Leo said, his voice filled with doubt. "I'm just one person. I don't know anything about ruling or leading, and I'm definitely not like your warriors." Mystara's expression softened slightly, and she placed a hand on the table, closer to him. "You don't have to be like them. You are already different, and that difference is why I want you by my side. Together, we can reshape the future of this planet. You can help me bring about change." Leo stared at her for a long moment, unsure of what to say. He hadn't come to this planet to change anyone's future. He had only come to survive, to get back to his ship, and return home. But now Mystara's words made him wonder if he could make a difference, if he had the power to change things. Even in a place so far from home? "I'm not a warrior," he repeated softly. Mystara smiled, a small, knowing smile. "You don't need to be, you only need to be yourself. That is what makes you strong." Leo sat in silence, trying to process everything she had said. The weight of her words lingered in the air, and he could feel the tension building between them. There was no easy answer, no clear path forward. He had come here to escape, but now he was being offered something he hadn't expected, a chance to be a part of something bigger than himself. "I'll think about it," he said quietly. "Standing up, me?" Star nodded, her expression still soft. "Take your time, Leo, but remember, the future of this planet could be in your hands." As Leo left the room, he couldn't help but feel the weight of her words. He had come here as a survivor, but now he was being offered the chance to change everything. He wasn't sure if he was ready for such a responsibility, but one thing was clear. His time on this warrior planet was far from over. And Mistar's obsession with him was only just beginning. In this part, Mistar's growing obsession with Leo takes a new direction. Instead of treating him as a mere, Leo couldn't stop thinking about Mistar's words. The future of this planet could be in your hands. He had never considered being part of something so huge, especially on a strange planet far from home. Every day he was drawn deeper into the Queen's world, a world where strength, power, and respect were earned through blood and battle. But as much as the warriors of the planet intrigued him, Leo knew he didn't belong here. He sat in his small stone chamber late one night, staring out at the dark sky. His mind was a mess of conflicting thoughts. There was part of him that wanted to accept Mister's offer. He could help change things, bring new ideas to this world. But then there was another part of him, a part that longed to return home, to find a way back to Earth and forget about all the chaos he had gotten himself into. Leo had come here by accident, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his presence had become more than just a coincidence. He leaned back against the stone wall, rubbing his tired eyes. The sound of footsteps outside his door interrupted his thoughts. He quickly stood up, making sure he wasn't caught off guard. The door to his chamber creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. It was Kale, one of the lower-ranking warriors who had become a secret ally to Leo. "Are you all right?" Kale asked, his voice low. Leo nodded, though his mind was far from peaceful. "I'm fine, just thinking." Kale stepped further into the room and closed the door behind him. "You've been quiet lately, the Queen. She's getting more interested in you, isn't she?" Leo didn't respond immediately. He had no idea how to answer that. Mistar's interest in him was undeniable, but he wasn't sure if it was out of genuine admiration or because she saw him as a tool, something to use in her quest for power. "I don't know what she wants," Leo finally said, his voice filled with uncertainty, "but she's not the only one who's been thinking. I need to get off this planet, Kale. I didn't crash here to stay and become some ... trophy. I need to find a way back to my ship." Kale looked around the room, making sure they weren't being overheard. "I understand, but you can't just leave. Mistar is powerful, and she won't let you go easily. Watching you more than you think," Leo sighed, running a hand through his hair. He knew Kale was right. The more time he spent here, the more he realized just how much Mistara controlled. She had power over everything, the warriors, the planet, and now, it seemed, she wanted to control him too. "I've been thinking about an escape plan," Kale continued, lowering his voice even further. "You need help. I can't do it alone, but I know some others who feel the same way. The warriors are tired of Mistara's rule. They don't like the way she's turning everything into a game. They want change." Leo's interest piqued. "You're not the only one who feels that way?" Kale shook his head. "No, some of us believe in what she's trying to do, but others see her obsession with you as a sign of weakness. They don't trust her decisions, and they think she's losing control." Leo thought for a moment. This was the first time he had heard about any kind of rebellion or dissatisfaction with Mistara's rule. If there were warriors who didn't fully support her, this could be his chance to escape, maybe even get back to his ship. "I'm listening," Leo said, his voice steady now. "What's the plan?" Kale stepped closer, speaking in whispers. "The palace is heavily guarded, but there are secret passages, ways in and out, that not even the Queen's inner circle knows about. I can get you to one of them. From there, you can make your way to the outskirts of the city. If you're fast, you might be able to steal a ship and get back to your people." Leo's heart started to race. The idea of escaping seemed almost impossible, yet the possibility was there. He wasn't sure how he felt about leaving everything behind, but his need for freedom outweighed his fear of the unknown. "What's the catch?" Leo asked. "There's no way it's going to be that easy." Kale looked grim. "The passage is hidden beneath the palace, but it's not just guarded by warriors. There are traps, mechanisms designed to prevent anyone from finding it. We'll need to be careful. Once you leave, there's no going back. Mistara won't forgive you." Leo nodded. He had known that. There would be no turning back once he made his choice. But he wasn't going to let fear control him anymore. "I'm in," Leo said, determination settling into his bones. "Let's do it." Kale's eyes brightened. Good. We leave tomorrow night. Be ready. As Kale left the room, Leo sat. Back down on the stone bed, his mind was racing. He had a plan, a way out. But it was risky, very risky. He had no idea what kind of power Mystara could summon if she realized he was leaving. But one thing was certain. Staying on this planet was no longer an option. He had to take the chance. The next day passed in a blur of anxious waiting. Leo spent the hours preparing, making sure he had everything he needed to escape. He didn't want to be caught off guard. Every sound, every movement outside his door had him on edge. He knew the warriors would be looking for him if he disappeared, and Mystara would not be far behind as night fell. Leo slipped into his black clothes, blending into the shadows of the room. His heart beat loudly in his chest, but his mind was clear. He had no idea what the future held, but for the first time since crashing on this strange world, he felt a flicker of hope. The time had come. He was going to escape. The night had arrived, and Leo was ready to make his move. His heart raced as he stood near the door of his chamber, listening for any sign that someone might be coming. Kale had promised to meet him outside, near the hidden passage that would take him beneath the palace and to freedom. But the weight of what he was about to do felt heavier than he had expected. There was no turning back now. He checked his makeshift gear, simple tools, and a small weapon Kale had given him for protection. His mind kept racing, thinking of the risks involved. Escaping from Mystara's palace would be no easy feat. It wasn't just the guards and traps, it was her. Leo had underestimated the Queen's power before, but now he realized how much control she had over everything. The Queen was no fool. She would know something was wrong the moment he disappeared. Still, Leo couldn't stay. The longer he stayed on this planet, the more he became entangled in its web. He had already seen enough. Mystara's obsession with him, her need to control everything, had made it impossible to trust her. He needed to leave for his own survival, and for the sake of his freedom, as he made his way through the dark hallways. Leo couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. He stopped at the edge of the courtyard, hidden in the shadows, waiting for Kale. His eyes scanned the surroundings, making sure everything was clear. The quietness of the palace at night felt eerie. Everything seemed so still, but Leo knew the warriors were always ready, always alert, even when they appeared to rest. A faint noise behind him made him turn. Kale appeared from the darkness, his face serious and focused. He moved quickly, without a word, and led Leo through the narrow passageways that twisted beneath the palace. The walls were damp and cold, and the air was thick with dust. The path was narrow and winding, but Kale seemed to know exactly where he was going. Leo followed closely, trying to ignore the sense of dread creeping up his spine. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a large stone door hidden behind a thick curtain of vines. Kale glanced at Leo, then carefully pushed the door open. The sound of the creaking door echoed through the silence, but the area beyond was pitch dark. Kale stepped inside and held out his hand for Leo to follow. "This is it," Kale whispered. "From here, you're on your own. The exit is close, but there are still a few traps. Be careful." Leo nodded, his pulse quickening. "I'll be careful. Just make sure no one follows me." Kale gave him a brief, serious look before pulling the door closed behind them. Together, they moved through the underground tunnels, each step echoing through the vast emptiness. The walls were marked with strange symbols that Leo couldn't understand, and he wondered how old this hidden passage was. How many had used it before him, and how many had failed? They came to another door, this one made of metal. Kale paused, inspecting the area carefully. "This is where the traps are. Wait for my signal." Leo stayed quiet, his ears straining for any sound. He had never felt so vulnerable. The Queen would notice his disappearance soon, and once she did, the hunt would begin. Couldn't afford to be caught now. Kale pulled out a small device from his belt and pressed a button. A faint filled the air as the metal door slowly opened. Leo felt a rush of excitement and fear. This was it. The final stretch. Just as they were about to step through the door, a noise behind them froze them both. Footsteps, heavy and fast. Leo spun around, his heart pounding in his chest. The sound was unmistakable. Someone was coming. Kale cursed. Under his breath, "It's too late," Kale whispered. "Go. I'll hold them off." Leo hesitated, but Kale pushed him forward. "No time to argue. Go now." Leo didn't have a choice. He sprinted through the door, heart racing. He had no idea how many warriors were following them, or how much time he had before Mystara realized he was gone. All he knew was that he had to keep running. The tunnel ahead was narrow, and Leo's mind raced as he tried to remember the way out. His feet barely touched the ground as he ran, the sound of his breathing the only thing he could hear. The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly, and the air grew colder the farther he went. He knew he couldn't stop now. He had come too far to turn back. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened up into a wide cavern. The exit was in sight, a faint light glowing in the distance. Leo pushed forward with all the energy he had left, but just as he reached the exit, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind him. Someone was catching up. Leo turned around, panic rising in his chest. He had to move faster, pushed himself forward, ignoring the burning in his legs. But as he reached the edge of the cavern, he felt something sharp press against his shoulder. He whipped around to see a figure standing in the darkness. It was Mystara. "Did you think you could escape?" she said, her voice calm but full of authority. Leo froze. The queen stood before him, her eyes cold and unblinking. She had been waiting for him. "I was hoping," Leo said, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "But I see I was wrong." Mystara took a step closer, her eyes studying him. "You are a fool, Leo. You think you can just run away from me? You are mine now, whether you like it or not." Leo's heart raced, but he didn't back down. He had come this far, wasn't going to let her stop him now. "I'm not yours," Leo said firmly. "I never was." Mystara's expression shifted, her eyes flashing with anger. But then, as quickly as it appeared, the anger faded. Instead, a dark smile spread across her face. "Perhaps you are right," she said softly, "but you will regret this." Leo didn't wait to hear another word. He ran toward the exit, ignoring the queen's warning. He had no time for her games anymore. He was finally free.